right, good morning, good morning, good morning. If you're kind of roaming around the edges, come on in, take a break, sit down, learn about a new product, a new way of doing things. Brief introductions. I'm Dean Moylan with the Noble Company.
I'm James Medina with the Noble Company.
James Dean, it's a James Dean presentation that is a trademarked and patented.
Yeah.
So please. All right, James Dean. Anyway, some brief introductions, some housekeeping. We've got Dave Kennedy, licensed contractor, helping demonstrate our new ProDeck system. Dave DeCam, licensed tile contractor, scraping our EXT. We'll get into that more later, but some brief background about the company. We are based in Spring Lake, Michigan. We are known as being a multi-decade manufacturer of very high quality sheet membranes for waterproofing, crack isolation, sound isolation, exterior decks, as well as linear drains, clamping ring drains, noble niches, all kinds of good things. But I'm going to turn it over to James Medina briefly. He's going to introduce himself to you. James, go ahead.
I'm James Medina once again, and just a little background on myself. We've 30 years in the industry, did a little bit of project management as a contractor, worked as a subcontractor, and then also with a general contractor in Las Vegas, built some projects.
The airport?
Did the airport too, and Terminal 3 Airport in Las Vegas, as well as Wynn and Encore. I was project manager of on-site development.
Steve Wynn was your boss?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was whipping boy. So, but seen a lot of different things, experienced a lot of things, and actually through the process, Dean and I have known each other for over 20 years and used a lot of their product within our projects. So it was natural when the recession came. I started working for a company that I very much trusted in and knew. That was welcomed, and here I am today. So
today we're going to talk about ProDeck. It got its start. We're one of the people to come out with a prefabricated, lightweight, foam-based prefabricated shower pan and tray. The one thing we did differently, a lot of our competitors use a 3-pound foam. Nothing wrong with that, but we wanted to bump up the performance. We have a proprietary honeycomb matrix. The PSI is 235. We can offer in custom shaped sizes. Our linear drains, our clamping ring drains, we can work with competitors as well if you let us know. But what happened in introducing this, we had a lot of requests for, gee, well, can you do this outside? There's some issues and concerns, currently with doing exterior decks. And James, maybe you can go to some of the traditional challenges.
So one of the things that you guys have been watching these demonstrations earlier, and how they'll have their product on the area, and before they go on it, they make sure they put something to protect it. It's simple. I do this. You can see my fingerprints here, and it's about 30 psi-ish. Okay. And that's always an issue with compressive strength, so you always have to protect it. But when we put the honeycomb matrix, of course, he said, Dean was talking about being 235 PSI, you don't get any denting, you can use whatever you want on it in a shower. So we see that a lot of people that are selling these shower pans were using penny rounds and small things that can cause compressive issues on the pans. This solves that problem, but also it gains a lot of strength. So it only made sense for Noble as we listen to a lot of our contractors as they may ask us for things, or they may say, hey, this is a good idea, what do you guys think? And so we started doing the developing, we started doing the testing, and one of the genesis of this product, it was a deck that the double Ds up there, got to make in Spring Lake, Michigan, and as you know, Michigan gets a lot of different kinds of weather, and it's outside, and it's been surviving the weather system of Michigan. So that's where we're at today. It's a very well-tested system beyond what we have on an interior.
One of the big challenges if you're doing traditional dry pack mortar, it's very heavy. If you're doing renovation work, does your support mechanism, your beams, your joists, the structure of your deck, will it accept that additional weight? This product is 90% lighter than traditional dry pack mortar.
So just to give you guys how many here used mud or mud systems? Guys, mud? Okay. So you know that you get a 60-pound bag. It takes roughly about 8 pounds per square foot on a typical shower pan or a typical floated system. These weigh, before you put it in, if anybody wants to see, this is one panel that would would be 16 square feet. It's a 4x4, so you're looking at 540 pounds as opposed to a couple of pounds.
10% of that weight.
Yeah,
about
10%.
maybe 25 or 30 pounds, maybe.
I don't usually hold it like that if it's about 25. Maybe.
So anyway, what they've been doing is they've been scratching out. We have a proprietary adhesive, Noble Bond EXT. It can be used in showers. It can be used wet areas, dry areas, crack isolation. The one place you don't want to use it is the steam rooms.
Right.
But it's a fantastic product because if you're doing waterproofing, you don't have to mix a thin set. You don't have to let that thin set slake. You don't have to wait for the thin set to cure out. This product, you're gonna scratch it out. It's make contact with air. As it makes contact with air, it's going to get sticky. All right. You can do the simple finger test, and when that adhesive grabs your finger.
Dave is not doing the cha-cha right now. Okay, so he's actually walking this in place. As Dean was mentioning, this is a wet set method that we're doing because it's on a cementitious board. You can do that. When he starts to install on top, when you spread the EXT, you do want to watch it flash off. It turns a little bit of an amber color, and you put your finger on it, and then you raise it up, and if you can get those spider webs on your finger, then you know it's ready for the membrane. But if you guys can all see this on the side view, you can see how it's already pre-pitched. So on a deck system, when we're looking at it, we want to see the different sections. That's the A section, this will be marked B section. It's all pre-pitched to it, so you can put in these huge 16 square foot pieces. 1, 2, 3, you're able to stand on it. Whereas if you're doing a mudded system, which would take multiple days because you have to wait for it to dry and cure out before you go on it, you can actually get everything waterproofed in one shot.
And if you had, obviously you may have drains on some decks. Of course, that's a workable aspect with this product. Let us know what type of drain you're using. And we do have our own proprietary low-profile clamping ring drains, exterior or interior usage. We also have our own linear drains. Dave's put the material in. James has the body and the clamping ring of the linear drain.
So what happens typically when you're having a deck, sometimes it terminates at the edge, sometimes, and I forgot the drain flashing at the end, that little, bad guy. But we typically put just a little drip edge on the end, or some people like to install a drain at the end to make sure that it doesn't go off the cascade off the side of the building. So there's multiple ways we can do this. It's totally customizable. We can make it if you have a center thin body drain to go into the system. You give it to us, we know. Now if you guys look over here, I'm gonna get out of your way. You can see how.
Did you see how hard that was to cut that? By the way, we make this at our stock size in a 4x4 module, okay? Addressing the typical residential deck, all right? We can make custom sizing for you. So there's no real limit. If you're doing a commercial project, let us know. But if you have, let's say, a 12 or 13 or 10 foot deck, well,
these come at it goes to 16 feet, and then we can add pieces to it, and then it'll make it bigger and thicker. So it's very easy to put together. Going back on the drain, I was just mentioning to you guys, what makes this very different. This is a 2-foot linear drain. As you can see, it's a solid piece of PVC. We make this up in Spring Lake, Michigan, and you see how it's pre-pitched in the interior. This 2-foot linear drain does 36 GPM, as opposed to a lot of other ones.
Gallons per minute?
Gallons per minute. Yeah, sorry, I rattled that off. But when you look at this, it kind of reminds you of a head gasket of a car. As we put this clamping ring on it, you have the most robust connection that you'll ever get on any drain.
And indeed, that is the combination of the clamping ring and our adhesive, it combines to create the most robust attachment of a waterproof membrane to a linear drain that is available, okay? In the 10 plus years we've had the linear drain, I've never personally been on a waterproof membrane to linear drain connection, so very stout. Now,
that's typically where it fails, because right where that water is rushing down into that area.
Now this is available in both pre-waterproofed and non-waterproofed, okay? And the options leave you to use our Noble deck on a 6-foot wide sheet. That might be more attractive to you. Now, it's been asked, can you use other competitors' product on this? Well, you would want to check with that competitive product.
Yeah, so we would basically become the acceptable substrate. and then they would be the primary waterproofing. So this is just an example of what you're going to eventually see. But if they came pre-waterproof, you can see these panels have a little bit of a lip to it. So these panels would go together, basically doing a shingle overlap as it goes down. It would just shingle overlap like that, and then we'd have a cap strip that would go over this edge, and it's very easy and simple to install. Now, what's unique about that cap strip and that the sealants that are being used.
Now, if you were doing, let's say 6'6" sections, and you wanted to have some additional belts and braces, we do have a 4-inch strip. You can overlap, overlay, if that's going to give you an increased sense of water protection at those seams and joints.
And what do we seal it with?
Proprietary Noble Sealant 250. For those of you who have been around, 150 has been a great product for multiple decades. Still works fine, but this product is low VOC. It guns out of the tube a lot easier, and it cures out.
If water touches it,
yeah. In an hour. Less than, if you want a flood test in an hour, that's fine. So whether you're using it interior for our shower pan pro-base system or waterproofing, or exterior, this cures out in an hour. So this whole system is very, very quick, as opposed to taking a week to do a deck, dry pack mortar, membrane. You can do this as quickly as it's being shown here.
So one note that I'm going to talk to you guys about as we come toward the edge of the building, imaginary building right here, it's always the connection point, right? And you see different systems, and they'll use like a membrane with a fabric reinforcement. Always think, besides that connection point or the waterproofing that's being used in that section of or membrane, does it move per ANSI 118.12? Does it have a high performance movement? And that's really critical, because you're going to get dynamic movement at that building, at that change of plane for EJ 171. So when you look at this is what's a unique factor about our sheet membranes, the CPE membrane. You can actually crease it in the field, and it's going to hold that edge. See that? And so he's going to make a nice clean connection as it goes up. We can't emphasize it enough to make sure that you flash a minimum of 4 to 6 inches.
4 to 6 inches, yeah.
Yeah, up that wall. Now we make these as well. This is a roll of it.
And by the way, while James is grabbing that roll, please, whether it's new construction or remodel, you have to flash that Noble deck up onto the main dwelling. I can't tell you how many failures I've seen because the ethos was already in place, the stucco was in place, whatever was there. Well, you're going to have, you may have to put a piece of cove base,
right.
You may have to remove some stucco, but don't go to the trouble of waterproofing a deck and then not flash up the main dwelling, because you're going to have a failure. You have to flash up.
Yeah.
As you can see, literally, it can happen for you this fast in the field, okay?
It would give or take 20 minutes. Usually when it starts flashing off, that's what you're looking at. You're going to be outside. You're going to have the sun. You're going to see that change colors. We're just doing this for the time frame that we have here. But you would have waited for this to flash off before you put your membrane in place. You would just basically set it in, roll it in, 90-pound roller, or here a 200-pound roller. Right? That's what he told me to say.
Yeah, but one thing, do us a favor. If you're using our product, any of our bonded membrane products, don't use the flat side of a trowel. You may think, gee, I'm getting that full embedding of the adhesive. You're not. Use a linoleum hand roller like that.
Oh, you got it?
On larger, big projects, have a helper with a 75-pound, 90-pound roller.
Yep. So when you look at what Dave's doing right now, he pre-marked a 2-inch overlap, made 2 spots right there, giving himself enough room, and he's going to roll it out, and then he's going to seal it with a Noble 250.
Another important, I think the last presenter also brought this up, if you're going to do an exterior deck job, please put your movement joints in where required. Outside deck is just subject to extreme thermal cycles of hot and cold.
If you have your TCNA manual, it's found on page 330 or 434, and it'll tell you exactly on that first section on the paragraph, exterior 8 to 12 and a perimeter. So this, because it's and we want to make sure that you get 100% coverage underneath there, and I'll show you how he's going to tell that he's going to get 100% coverage underneath that seam. But when we're doing the exterior, we talk about movement on that section, we want to make sure that you put 8 to 12 if you question it. You're trying to make little movement islands, if you will, out on that deck, depending on where you're at.
Perimeters are also important, perimeter joints?
Perimeter joints are very important, yeah. So Dave is spreading on a generous coat of 1 bead of this sealant underneath here, and he wants to make sure that he gets 100% coverage. So you're going to see him pick up his margin trowel in a second, and he's going to start it off, and what you're going to see is he first flattens it out, and then he's going to come back and he's going to push it down, and then all of a sudden you might see a little bit squirt out on the end sometimes.
It'll bleed out.
Yeah, that bead will squirt out a little bit, and he can just clean it off. There it is, see? And so now he knows he's got 100% coverage. Sorry, Frank, I'm in your way.
One of the things
and
we've
then
also
he pulls
done
it back to make sure that he has 100% coverage and sticks it back down. Okay?
With regard to our linear drains, and these can be used outside.
Yes.
All right. A lot of people don't like to screw all the screws in. It gets to be a headache for them. We offer this now pre-flashed. Okay. If you want our linear drains pre-flashed at the factory, we can do that for you. So now you're tying into that existing flashing material, of course, with our 250 sealant.
And what's interesting, when it comes pre-flashed, it's interesting to look at this edge here. You see how it's actually adhered all the way to 250? It's actually all the way out here. When you do it on the site, it's usually only underneath this gasket area, but we're doing it all the way because we found out when the product meets it, if you don't do this, you'll get a little bit of a little ripple in that area. So what we did is we glued it right up to that point, so this just adheres right to the deck. One thing we forgot to mention, because this is a product that's been out for 25 years, the Noble Deck, it is something that's rated for over living space. You don't have to fear about it. Yep, and you want to make sure that you can do it. Are you done? Yep, he's done.
200-pound roller.
The 200-pound roller.
Do we have a couple of questions? We have a minute or two for a couple.
Yep.
Are there any questions out there? Any burning issues?
If the deck is what?
It's uneven.
Uneven, okay. So you can also install this with a modified thin set if you know that it can take it. But you know, obviously with the straight edge, you take a look at it. Now, if your deck, we didn't get to mention this, let's say you have a deck, a pre-existing deck that already has a pitch to it. All you have to do is go, I don't need a pre-pitched system. I want flat panels. We'll send you flat panels that can go right on top of it, and you can install directly on top of that. So because you already have a pitch to the system. So.
And by the way, pedestal pavers.
We can make them like 3/8.
Very popular right now. No problem putting a pedestal paver system on top of our Noble Deck.
Right.
I've done my research out there, and there's a lot of existing waterproof membranes that are being used with pedestal pavers. They're very good, but they're very expensive. Okay. This was a very competitive system. Again, rated over occupied space, primary waterproofing, superior crack isolation performance.
It's basically designed to take the place of a mudded system because it has that high PSI. And that's why you can put a pedestal system on it, because you would be worried about point loading any other particular system. So I want to make sure that that was made clear.
That's really all about we have the time for. So our booth is right over there, 2934, I believe.
Yep.
2934. Please stop over and see us. We'll love to talk about it in more detail with you. Otherwise, have a fantastic show, and thank you for attending our presentation.
Stick around. We have our next Noble presentation is going to be on.
We have another Noble presentation.
Linear drains, right?
Custom bases.
Custom
bases.
Pro base.
Custom
Yeah,
Pro base.
custom interior Pro base product. Thank you very much.